In today's video, we have some new front seats we're going to be installing in my 1988 Saab 900 Turbo here behind me. So without further ado, let's get into it. The existing seats on my 900 Turbo are not terrible for being 35 years old. The driver's seat is worse than the passenger seat, which you're looking at here. And really the major issue is this damage right along here, as well as the leather just kind of starting to crease and rip in some other areas. So it's not that perfect. And thankfully, one of my buddies locally was selling a spare set of front seats in the same color, and just look at how nice these are. The leather is still nice and soft and malleable, and it just way more comfortable to sit in. So as much as I hope that this would be a straight swap, meaning it would have taken me about 15 minutes to pull the old seat out, plop the new one in, and be good, you might already notice some differences between the two. Main one being that this seat is manual. You can see all the adjustments and everything on the side, whereas the new seat is powered. So that creates a few issues. First off, if I wanted to, I could just wire up power seats to this car and install these as is. I don't really want to do that because I do honestly quite like the manual seats, and 30-year-old power seats kind of scare me a little bit with something possibly going wrong in the future. So I figure it's easiest to just stick with the manual. Moving inside though, there is one issue with this. It essentially means we need to strip the leather off of the new seats and the old seats and put the leather skins onto the old manual frame. So you can see that's kind of what I'm in the process of doing here right now. I'm going to show you all the process from start to finish, but it's going to be a lot of work and hopefully will be worth it in the end. Once you have your seat skins off though, this is kind of what you're going to be looking at. You should have a top and a bottom cushion. Now, one thing you might already be able to tell I messed up on the first seat was these wire frames. So there's a wire frame that runs on the inside of the top one, kind of laid out like this one is here. And then there is a wire frame on the bottom one that hooks around in the same way. Thankfully, with the top cushion on the other one, the wire frame was still good and intact and not ripped off the leather like it is on both of the two old cushions. So that's good news. However, on the bottom, it was all ripped off in the same manner that this one is, and there's just no way to really attach it. So what that really means is the leather on the new seat is not fully sucked down, especially in the middle, so it's not contoured to the foam in the same way that the top is. Again, this is something that I'm going to be more careful with on this side now that I know better about how it all comes apart. But I've done way too much talking. Let's get into it. We'll start simple by removing these trim pieces on either side. These buttons pop off just with a very gentle persuasion. I'm too lazy to go out to the garage and get my pry tool, so the flathead will do. I'm being very gentle. That literally just flew to the other side of the house. Wow, okay. And let's pop this off. There are a lot of things that we're going to be cutting here. There's a lot of hog rings. In this case, there's also a couple of zip ties. I tried at first to salvage these hog rings. There's really no point. Zip ties worked out pretty well on the first seat I did for everything, so I'll just be using that again. But let's start by just cutting. So really want to make sure you have a good set of pliers. Now, working on the opposite side here, there are a couple of these little metal hooks that we need to undo that help pull the back part of the seat tight. What I found is best is to pull on this wire here because it's pretty flexible. You don't have to worry about permanently bending it, and then pull down on the leather and the hook at the same time, and it will unhook itself. There we go. At this point, I can actually already pull this up, and that's fully disconnected. I fear I may have the same problem on this seat as I did with the passenger side. Like I mentioned, there's a metal ring that goes around this to help pull the middle part of the cushion down to the seat and help create that contour. Like you can see, my current seat is kind of missing. There's 4 points where that comes through. Here, there's another one right there, and then where this massive hole is right here. So there should be, similar to this, just little metal hooks on these pieces, but I'm sticking my finger in here. I can't feel anything, so I don't know what I'm gonna find. I'm hoping that the metal pieces or the metal ring is still attached to the leather. If not, we're probably gonna just have to deal with it, to be all honest, because there's not much we can do. But one thing we can do for now, since that doesn't seem to exist, is unhook these pieces right here. So I'm going to flip the seat over and just tap on this with a screwdriver, and it'll kind of slide right out. Everything is pretty much unhooked with the exception of all the metal ring pieces. So I'm just going to kind of begin pulling up here. To be completely honest, I'm not sure what's going on with this because you can see it's creased here, much better than my current seat is, but there is no wire in there anywhere. There is some wiring going into this. Unfortunately, it's not just a simple plug. I assume it's for the seat heater, but I don't want to rip this off and end up in the same situation as I did with the last seat. So I think I'm going to try instead, in the meantime, to kind of get a better idea of what's going on, is do the same exact thing to my current seat. Now, if you see under here, this one actually does have the hooks like it should. You can see there's 2 there, and then also the 2 up there. So I'll catch up with you guys in a bit when I'm done with the seat. I'm in the same boat with the original seat, unfortunately. As you can see, the wire is taken out of here, which is great. However, again, no matter how careful I was, it was just completely off and out of where it should be within this kind of material. And I think just over time, it probably just fades and falls apart. And there's just nowhere to really attach the wire to, because if I were to thread anything through here, you would then see it on the other side, which is obviously not what you want. So I think with that in mind, I'm just gonna send it and pull this off, because I don't really see a way around it, unfortunately. Kind of what I had thought. This one just does not have any wire. It's not tucked down in here. It was kind of stuck, almost as if it was glued down to the foam. So not sure what's up with that. Let's move on to the backrest. First step on the backrest is going to be undoing the zipper on the bottom that kind of pulls the front and the back together on the underside. So oddly enough, on my original seats, there's an actual zipper here that you can unzip, but the replacement seats don't have any zipper at either end. So I just kind of got to pull it back up, or pull it apart, and just not really be able to use it as a zipper when I reinstall it, but I have a solution for that. Now that I've got it started, I'll just I will just slide that through to the front. There should be little metal hooks around the bottom corners here, but for some reason this seat doesn't actually have them. So I guess I'm gonna skip that step, but the other 3 seats all do. So just a note, I guess yours might be missing it. Thankfully, this leather is fairly malleable and not super dried out. And the reason why I say that is, for the rest of this, we kind of have to fold the leather on itself, or essentially fold it inside out as we're going up the backrest. One thing you're going to have to fight and just ultimately bend on the front side is this metal hoop and crossbars here. So you can see already it's kind of resisting me to bend, the metal bars wanting to poke out, so I just kind of got to bend this as I'm bending that because we don't want to run into the same problem we did down here. This just kind of clips into a metal plate and we just need to carefully pull it off. There are 6 of these black straps. I'll put a picture on the screen of what they look like, that are run through this metal bar and then into the back of the seat that you essentially have to cut with hog ties and then feed through the front to unhook this from in here. For some reason, this one just kind of came off and this one came off here. That's no problem. I think we'll be able to fix that. But I guess we'll just move on to the next 2 that are a little higher up. Looking through this hole in the backrest, you can see the hog ring is tied to one of these little metal wires here. So we just need to cut this. And the thing will go through the front. Now you can see there is a little piece right here kind of in the way. That I just pushed on. Probably the easiest part of the whole job. Just comes off very easily. And continue sliding up till we get some resistance and we've hit our last set of straps. With it pulled up a bit further, there are 3 more hog rings here that hold the leather to the wire frame. So we will just need to cut these. Slide it up a bit more. You'll see there are 2 little metal hooks on either side that, again, like the straps, are holding this to the front. So the only way I've been able to push this through is to get the flathead right in that little groove on the hook once it's pulled out, and just hit it with a hammer, and it just kind of goes through. Well, all we really have left is the headrest. And the headrest is very, very difficult to remove. Zoom in on that, and there's a tiny little Torx right where my finger is. The headrest will not come out if this Torx is still in there. Headrest pulled on a bit, or pulled out a bit, it literally just slides right out. You can pull that right out. And there is our seat, completely stripped. I'll go ahead and do the same thing to my current seat. Driver's seat has been all stripped down, and I wanted to quickly discuss some of the differences. Now, the far side of both seats is kind of the same for the most part. You can see about the same spacing here and here. Unfortunately, however, on this side, you can see there's much more material on the new seat. That gave me a bit of a problem when installing it on the passenger seat. So I'll show you guys kind of the workaround I did that will hopefully work well enough on this seat as well. The other difference is this metal bar that runs through here. You can see is shaped much differently. This actually wasn't as big of an issue as I thought it would be. So I think we'll be fine there on this seat as well. But I think without further ado, let's start installing our top cushion. First item we need to attach are these 2 hooks. So there are 2 slots cut out here on the front of the seat. And if you come around to the back, you'll see right there and right there are where they need to hook into. Hook is sitting right there positioned, so I'm kind of reaching around from the front and using my thumb to push the hook towards me. And once it breaks through this hole, I'm going to grab a pair of needle nose pliers to pull it through the rest of the way and hook it into place. Okay, well, it's at least through. Now it's just a matter of hitting it down into place. There we go. That's one of them in. There's both of them in. With that done, we can start to pull the leather on just a little more. There was a metal bar right here, 3 holes in it. There were 3 hog rings that connected this to this supporting brace right here, we'll just call it. So we essentially need to replace those and just tie it up. On the other seat I use zip ties and they worked out perfectly, so we'll do that again here. You might be asking yourself, why did I not just order new leather seat skins from LC? Well, initially that was going to be my plan. They do still sell new leather for these cars. However, after seeing these seats come up locally for sale and the price I got them at, it was impossible to turn down. So I can tell that the rest of the leather is kind of already where it's supposed to be at. So therefore I'm going to tighten this up. And I'm going to position the head of the zip tie, making sure it's kind of underneath. I don't want it facing out, and then it might create a little bit of an ugly bulge in the leather. So the other seat cushion used a variety of hooks. You can see the smaller ones here and the bigger ones on the bottom. So the smaller ones went on the top, bigger ones on the bottom. So I was able to get the first one in right there. Definitely a super tight and difficult fit, but that should mean in theory that the leather is going to hold really tight to the cushion, which is what we want. So I'm going to try to duplicate the same over here. Probably the easiest part of the install is this little elastic strap right here. Hooks around that metal piece, and there's one of those on each side. Most of the rest of the back is rinse and repeat, so I'm going to use these two slightly longer hooks on this middle section right here. So I'll rip these two straps off, and then on the bottom I'll grab two more hooks to use, and those will go into the corners down here. These hooks are extremely hard to kind of get a hold of and pull through, so what I'm using is a spare hook that I have to run through the front here, hook it around, pull it out, you know, at least until it's visible, stick the pliers on there, and then yank it through the rest of the way until I can hook it around one of these wireframe pieces. For these bottom two, I can't find the exact photo to confirm, but I'm 99.9% sure these are the correct length hooks and the correct style that go through that hole. So let's try that out and confirm. Oh, there we go. Assuming we had the clips on the new one, we'd hook that around this piece right here, but I don't, which means our last step is figuring out what to do with this unzipperable zipper. So we can fold the leather over itself the rest of the way. Before I do that, actually, I need to put this backrest down, and I can't do that at the moment because, again, you can see the holes, unfortunately, just don't line up here. So I know, a bit disappointing. You can see the poke where this is at. I made the mistake the first time I did this of cutting where this was at and just cutting a slit, which is why it ended up way too far down. What you need to do is feel for the outline. You can see the top of it right there. Feel for the outline of the metal bracket and start cutting there. Cut a little bit south of where that bracket's actually at. Method I found works at least well enough. Just poke a little hole. And we just zip tie it. All right, I got to do that a few more times across here to make this look a bit better. Well, I think this looks pretty good. There's a good deep contour here. These lines are nice and tight as they should be, whereas before it was just kind of flat the whole way across. This piece here, very difficult to get in. And again, the leather just ripped a little bit too much. Very upset about that, unfortunately. Tried to do the best I could to pull it back together, but there's only so much I can do. There is a little metal clip inside this piece. Oh yeah, just like that. Oh, awesome. Let's move on to the bottom seat cushion now. So assuming we had our wire frame in here, the process would be extremely similar. We'd feed those wires through the holes in here and then pull them through to the bottom to hold the bottom cushion to the ground. Unfortunately, there aren't any on this, but we do still have a few things we need to connect. First, we can feed this through the gap. This will come around to the underside and hook in. The first thing I want to do is deal with these two things on either side because they're a bit finicky to get lined up right here where we need them to go. So in order to get these in, I'm going to just kind of rotate the seat very far up and then kind of pull it down and it hooks in. We'll do the same thing on the other side, but that's really the only way to get it in because there's no way to fit it around this mounting point for the seat belt. Like you can see, even this way, there's just not enough room for it to fit through. So feeding it through like this is really the only way. With those in, I'm going to work on pulling our cushion or our leather over the cushion. So we need to pull this piece a bit tighter. And in order to do that, it needs to be fed through this little slit here. And then we can hook it over our cage. There's still a bit of excess material on this front portion, so I'm going to do a bit more messing around with this. I might need to pull this up a little higher, and we'll catch up with you all after that. I've got that most of the way sorted. Now we need to worry about tying the front down to the actual frame. So you might remember when we removed this, it might have been the first thing we did actually, is we cut the hog rings here that hooked into this piece that's right underneath here. So I'm going to do that again, but with some zip ties. Last item I did here was put 2 zip ties on either corner because there was a zip tie on there from the start. Overall, I'd say the finish is pretty solid. The leather is relatively tight. It does sort of have a shape to it, but not in the same sense that the top does. So that's a bit disappointing, but again, there wasn't really much I could do. All right, let's reassemble our trim pieces. First, we'll tackle this side. Just kind of has to squeeze down in here. This piece here is where we have to get creative, mainly because, like I mentioned, this piece extends further down, so it kind of blocks a couple of the mounting pieces for that. So here's where one screw goes in. The second screw goes in right there, so this metal bar is right in the way, and this one obviously will be fine. So let's see what we can do. So this has actually worked out a lot smoother than the passenger side did. You can tell it's not perfect, needs to be tightened down. But this one was just able to line up. And this one, you can see the bolt hole is just about lined up. So I'm gonna put that last one in and get these all tightened down. Before we're ready to put this back in the car, there are 2 more things we need to do. First and most importantly is steam this whole thing. Hopefully trying to get some of these indents and stuff out. Not super confident about some of these, but we'll do what we can. And then secondly, put the headrest in. So I just got done cleaning all this off, so it's ready for the steamer. I'm going to be using a combination of the steamer and a blow dryer, and then also applying some pressure with a microfiber to helpfully work some of these indents out. Worst of which is this headrest one, which is really bothering me. In retrospect, if I were to do this again, I would steam a lot of these deeper creases before I put the leather on. I should have done that. I figured it would just be easiest when it was on the frame and everything, but you know, these look better, but they're not perfect. Overall though, I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. Should just slide in. A lot of people don't reinstall that that T25 when they do this job, from what I've read. And one last thing, leather conditioner and some sort of shampoo and stuff on this. I plan on doing that in the future once it's kind of been in the car a little bit. I need to do some research and order some stuff.
Guilty self-affliction. Prey on me when I'm lonely. And I'm your willing victim. My friends already told me.
The car is currently parked in, and I don't feel like moving it, so let's just do this the hard way and feed the passenger side through the driver's side.
Don't need a reason. 'Cause I don't wanna be.
Ooh. Oh. Yeah. I mean, aesthetically, this was obviously a massive upgrade over the current seats that were in the car. I didn't really realize how stained and discolored they were until I compared it to these. But just sitting in them is really what I'm most hyped about. I mean, the leather, like I mentioned earlier, is so soft. To finally have some side bolsters, it just feels more like a couch almost. Just compared to what I'm used to with everything having been so stiff in the past, it feels awesome. It feels like I'm in a brand new seat. One thing I was a bit concerned about going into this, and I felt fairly confident on, but wasn't exactly sure, was how well this leather would match the rear seats and well the rest of my tan interior. And obviously it was the same tan color, but given that it was from a different car, this leather was obviously in much better condition. I was worried it might not exactly match, and at first look, with as much light as I can get on it here, it looks awesome. It looks like it came in the car just like this, and that was my goal at the end of this. So overall, first time doing this, not the worst job in the world. Again, the wires are kind of the big thing you got to worry about, making sure you're not ripping those out of the cushions. Otherwise, you kind of end up with no bolsters or leather that doesn't quite fit around the cushion properly. With that being said though, thank you all so much for watching. I'm so excited to finally have these new seats in the car. Lots more upgrades and repairs coming on the 900 very soon. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Check out my merchandise linked down below if you're interested. I'll see y'all next time.